Good morning. Welcome to your program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us today, November 8, 2023. It's a Wednesday, and just reminding all of you who may be driving vehicles, check if you are coding because you don't want to pay the fine. Anyway, it promises to be a fine day. Wag lang ma-fine. And we are going to have a very interesting discussion today, conversations with experts regarding this recent case where a doctor, who was charged with a civil case and ended up being in jail and serving a term for a criminal case. I'm kind of confused about it because his patient sued him for conducting a surgery. He was an orthopedic surgeon. He conducted a knee surgery, and the patient complained that he had used unsterilized equipment, leading to infection, complication, etc. And then when the case was heard in court, the civil case turned out to be a criminal case. The doctor landed in jail, and while in jail, he suffered a heart attack. So now, so many doctors are talking about this case, are afraid of the consequences, the complications that arise, because a lot of doctors will probably now have to get a serious malpractice suit insurance. Kumbaga, mangyari, kailangan nilang insurance at baka kung sino-sino na ang gumaya at mag-inarte and then kasuhan ng mga doktor. So, that's what we are going to discuss today, and we will find out how serious is this situation and what could be the results or the consequences for patients. It's bad enough that our specialist hospitals are suffering from budget cuts. Okay, if you read the column of Mr. Bu Chanko in the Philippine Star, he recently pointed out that a lot of our specialist hospital, the lung center, the heart center, because of their growing concerns and burdens, should have more money, but instead their budgets were cut. So pag-uusapan po natin, what will be the consequence of a doctor being sent to jail, dying in jail, on what is essentially a malpractice suit. We will tackle that. But first of all, let me thank you for joining us this morning. Maraming salamat to all our Cignal TV subscribers. And of course, thank you to all of you who follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course, who download the Cignal Play app. Maraming salamat also to Mr. Marco Borlongan of PLDT Home Fiber Optic Internet. Talagang maaasahan. And let's now go to our daily starter from author Do Zantamata. Okay? Don't let the fear of what could happen make nothing happen. Yan, okay? You are so scared of consequences. You are worried about costs. You are confused and overwhelmed by what might be the end result of an undertaking or something you want to do, a decision you want to make, that you end up doing nothing and nothing happens. Yung sabi nga nila, analysis paralysis. And that is what Do Zantamata is reminding us. Don't let the fear of what could happen make nothing happen. Wala gawa, wala gawa. Okay? Now, let's go to the front page of the Philippine Star, November 8, 2023, Wednesday. The headline, nako po, eto na. Rodi denies hand in destabilization. Party mates told, go ahead, leave PDP laban, GMA, Davao Congressman, Ungab out as deputy speakers. Okay. Former President Rodrigo Duterte is baffled on how his name got dragged into a supposed destabilization move against the government. Armed Forces Chief General Romeo Browner Jr. earlier disclosed destabilization moves against the Marcos administration by some retired generals, and there were insinuations, patutsada, pahapyaw, that Duterte is behind the moves. Quote, I really do not know how I was dragged into this, Duterte said. So apparently it is not enough for certain individuals to make Sara Duterte miserable. They are actually going full force to completely crush the Duterte family and his party. Meanwhile, at the top of the front page, new barangay execs killed in Pasay, Cotabato, and Davao. And the interesting thing about this is these are not barangay captains, they are mostly councilors, kagawad, yung pinag-uusapan natin the other day. And now, apparently, the recent casualties are all barangay councilors. Now, good news, inflation slows in October. Well, good news na yan because most people believe that as the real Christmas season approach, food prices will go up because of the demand. But according to the Philippine Statistics Authority, it has slowed down and not increased. So hopefully it will trend, or it will be a trend, but unfortunately, reality tells us pagdating ng end of the month, puto ka na ang presyo. Anyway, DA, enough food supply for holidays. There will be no pork shortage as the holiday season approaches, the Department of Agriculture assured. The question is, will there be a sufficient supply of chicken? If you all remember, there was a time when all the fast food chains could not serve you more than one-piece chicken. Nawala yung two-piece chicken because there was a serious supply shortage. But according to the DA, hindi raw mangyayari yan. Meanwhile, speaking of the Dutertes, Supreme Court asked, declare Sara's secret funds unconstitutional. So, eto na naman tayo. Legal experts and former government officials yesterday filed a petition asking the Supreme Court to declare as unconstitutional the 2022 transfer of 125 million, okay, to the office of the Vice President or OVP, which is under Sara Duterte's confidential fund. Iba po yung confidential fund sa secret fund. Choice of words, please, okay? Petitioners also asked the High Court to order the OVP, which spent the fund in just 11 days in December last year, to return 125 million to the government's treasury. Nagsalita po dyan yung Department of Budget Management na hindi naman daw yan po usurpation of legislative power. They were simply following a process that allowed them to do so. Okay. Meanwhile, center photo of the Philippine Star, in case you have forgotten, like I forgot myself, the center photo of the Philippine Star, motorcycle speed past a Yolanda Memorial near the Tacloban City Convention Center in Leyte. The monument, a symbol of strength and remembrance, honors the victims of the super typhoon that flattened towns and left more than 7,000 people dead or missing in 2023. So here we go. No? This month is the month when Yolanda or Typhoon Haiyan hit the Philippines and particularly destroyed Tacloban full on and killed 7,000 people. Back then, pinag-aawayan na yung 6,000 people casualty rate, but now that people have started checking, reporting, etc., through the 10-year process, more than 7,000 have actually died because there are families that disappeared and no one made the report regarding, naubos na po kami, wala na po, patay na po kaming lahat. So anyway, a decade after the super typhoon Yolanda or Typhoon Haiyan hit the Visayas and left more than 7,000 people dead or missing, survivors are preparing to commemorate the disaster. According to an interview of the Agence France Presse, who spoke to 3 people, Jubilin Tanega still keeps the Boy Scouts ID card that belonged to her 10-year-old son, Stephen, in a jewelry box. She found the laminated card on a tree in the days after the huge storm surge crashed over the family's jeepney in Tacloban City. Yan po, bumabiyahe sila, hindi nila sinunod yung warning na may padating na matinding bagyo, bumiyahe sila, tinamaan sila ng tsunami. In fact, even that tsunami was questioned, doubted back then, but clearly, it was, call it a special type of tsunami. Anyway, going to the front page, Speaker Martin Romualdez, House power of the purse, non-negotiable. Okay. Speaker Martin Romualdez has made it clear that the House of Representatives' power of the purse, the constitutional mandate to scrutinize the government's annual budget, is non-negotiable regardless of political implications. Okay? He said that he reminded his colleagues in the House that they owe it to the 114 million Filipinos who they represent collectively and who elected them into office and expect much from them. Okay, meanwhile, BBM to visit Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii and broadcaster slay 100,000 peso reward up for info. Okay, Malacanang Media Security Task Force is offering 100,000 for any information regarding the slay of broadcaster Juan Johnny Walker Humalon, who was killed November 5 inside his booth. And the bottom photo, the Makati Central Business District was officially lit up last night. Binuksan na po ang mga ilaw sa mga parol dyan po sa Makati Business District. So for those of you who just like looking at all of this, please do so and panawagan lang po doon sa mga LGU, kindly stick to our traditional concepts of paroles and belens. Kasi may nakita ako diyang Belen daw sa may Makati, sa Buendia. Medyo, you really had to spend time in the traffic to figure out that it was a Belen. Akala ko abstract sculpture rendition. Anyway, we'll go for a quick break and we go to our discussion regarding the reality of malpractice, the fear of doctors, and the legal case that caused it, and the death of a physician behind bars. We'll be right back here on Agenda.
Dr. Benigno Iggy Agbayani Jr. was an orthopedic surgeon who once served as the first president of the group Concerned Doctors and Citizens of the Philippines, or CDCPH. He previously appeared in this program in 2021, where he shared his thoughts about the once proposed bakuna bubble during the COVID-19 lockdown. Dr. Agbayani was arrested and sent to the Manila City Jail on May 25th due to a civil case filed against him in 2006. On October 5, he died of heart attack while behind bars. On October 31, a Change.org petition was created in calls for the Judicial Integrity Board to revisit Dr. Agbayani's case. The petition warned that his case sets a precedent that could push for unwarranted and malicious complaints against physicians. Is there a chance for the court to revisit this case? And how can doctors have better legal protection? Let's discuss this on today's Agenda.
Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa is an accomplished corporate and litigation lawyer in the country. He previously served as the president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines from 2019 to 2021. A multi-awarded civic leader, public servant, and educator, Cayosa is an advocate for alternative dispute resolution and human rights, among others.
Good morning, attorney. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Cito, and good morning to your viewers.
Okay, let's get started with our topic for today. I don't know what the legal classification would be, because people keep using the term a civil case, but then it was reckless imprudence resulting in injury or something like that. And then the guy ends up in jail. Iggy ends up in jail. So it's like, akala ko ba civil ito? Bakit siya naging criminal? What are your thoughts on this, attorney?
Well, the fact is, it is a criminal case. That's why the fiscals were involved. It is reckless imprudence resulting to physical injury. So, of course, criminal cases have a civil aspect. But what was filed was not a civil complaint for damages, which they could have done so under the civil code, but a criminal case for reckless imprudence resulting to injury using the revised penal code. So criminal case ito. So it should be clear. No? Of course, we know that it is now the topic of many speculations, many opinions, and even our co-professionals in the medical profession are quite aggrieved about the decision and what has happened to their comrade in their profession. Nakikiramay tayo kay Dr. Iggy. He was a very promising and dedicated doctor, and we all hope that by his experience, sad as it may be, we all learn and do better in our justice system, in our respective professions.
Okay, you use the term in our justice system and respective profession. Of course, it goes without saying that if you are a journalist, lawyer, doctor, etc., you need to be a professional and you do quality work with excellence. But now, let's go to the justice system. there is a sentiment that there was a miscarriage of justice. Now, someone even wrote the Philippine Star. I've been trying to backtrack on the copy last Monday, where a doctor wrote to the editor and said that Iggy failed to file, or his lawyer failed to file the necessary requirements for a petition. But before that, okay, was there something wrong in this case, or why is the integrity board being called to look into this case?
Well, I'm wondering why the venue for their complaint is the integrity board, because the integrity board is a newly created office under the Supreme Court that takes care of complaints against erring magistrates and justices.
Okay.
So baka akala nila, they might think that the judge was grossly ignorant of the law, no? Baka yun, because pag judicial integrity board, ang target mo, judges, justices, and those in the judicial sector. Pag ang target mo naman, or ang kino-complain mo is a lawyer, it's a disbarment proceeding that can be brought before the IBP or before the Supreme Court. So we don't know, we haven't read that petition, but it's a wonder why they go there, because judges, even assuming they commit mistakes in rendering decision, and they cannot be they are not automatically liable. Kasi nagkakamali din naman ng mga husgado. And that is why in many cases, especially criminal cases, the aggrieved party has a right to appeal. And in this case, they appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And
I think it was the Court of Appeals.
Yeah, they from municipal trial court, sa city court, they went to the regional trial court. It was denied. They went to the Court of Appeals. It was denied. They went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court reduced the sentence from a minimum of 2 years to minimum of 1 month. So dumaan naman sa proseso, but it's good that it is now under close scrutiny so that we can see the loopholes, or perhaps the need for further improvement in our justice system. Because what we are missing here, Cito, and you can check the records, the offense happened in 2006.
Yeah.
The decision of the MTC was in 2013. The RTC denied the appeal in 2013. The Court of Appeals denied the appeal in 2014. And then they went to the Supreme Court. It was only in this year that the Supreme Court resolved it with finality. So it took the Supreme Court more than 6 years to decide this simple case. So that's a fact that we should also look at. Our campaign, remember, of Justice Bilis, because things could have gone better kung mas mabilis. Pangalawa, we should also look at the jail system. We're not blaming anyone, but the death was not because of the sentence, but because of the pressure, perhaps, the emotions, or perhaps we look at the conditions in our jails all over the country, because they are also notoriously overpopulated, cramped, and that might have added. So these are all possibilities. But it is good for us to look at all the aspects, not just the fault of the lawyer, the judge, or the doctor, or anybody else, but a systemic assessment.
Okay, you said that the Supreme Court judged this with finality only this year.
Yes.
Now, but was this regarding the length of sentence or the guilt of the doctor?
That includes the guilt of the doctor. The Supreme Court, it's not also correct to say it was dismissed on mere technicalities. Because even if the lawyer did not file his memorandum as required by the courts, even if he did not file that, it's still the duty of the appellate courts at all levels to look at the records. And there was a hearing and a trial on the merits.
Mhm.
So they can look at the evidence, they can review the transcript of the sonographic notes, they can look at what the witness has said, and appreciate the facts as presented through witnesses and documents. So hindi naman technicality lang ito. As a matter of fact, the Supreme Court look at the merits and reduce the sentence from
Yeah.
minimum of 1 year to just minimum of 1 month.
Minimum of 1 month in jail.
Yes.
But he
Yun
had been
ang
in jail for 5 months, from what I understand.
minimum indeterminate sentence to kasi minimum of 1 month and maximum of 1 year.
Okay, so how do you resolve that? Kasi marami ring naguguluhan dyan eh. Okay, just listening to you, you said that the Supreme Court said minimum of 1 month, but the law says minimum of 1 month to a maximum of 1 year. Who determines how long he should have stayed in jail?
Well, the courts. And that's why the Supreme Court lowered the penalty, initial penalty by the trial court of minimum of 2 years to a higher penalty to a minimum of 1 month, maximum of 1 year. Because that's how penalties are under the revised penal code. There's a range.
Mhm.
It also depends on your conduct in jail. There's also the good conduct time allowance. So it's also possible that he could have availed of that, but inabutan nga siya ng he passed on while they were
Yeah.
still working. I think it is also valid. I also understand his determination to clear his name. That's why they filed the other pleadings before the courts.
Yeah, because he had an option to appeal for parole, but he declined that option because he wanted to clear his name. So he strongly felt that he was innocent, and in spite of all the decisions of the trial court, of the Court of Appeals, etc. Now, as far as the concerns of physicians go, what should we worry about? Because this morning, when I was talking to someone about this matter, the concern was, paano na yan? If people in the barrio goes to the doctor out in the field, and there are no, fantastic hospitals, there are poor medical facilities out in the boondocks or in the provinces, physicians would now have second thoughts about doing their jobs because pwede silang tirahin ng, no, he delivered my baby without proper surgical. Ang dami ng pinapanganak sa taxi, pinapanganak sa kung sa anong sa tricycle. How do you see this complicating the situation? Because I think that's the first fear. Doctors now becoming open to malpractice suits or false claims.
Well, it may be a fear to some of the doctors, and we could understand because they may not know or appreciate the details of the law, the criminal justice system. But
Okay.
they should not fear because cases of negligence or reckless imprudence, for that matter, in this particular case, or criminal negligence, depends on the circumstances. So they should not fear about, taking immediate action under the circumstances because all of these things will be taken into consideration in determining whether or not there was simple negligence or reckless imprudence or criminal negligence, no?
Mhm.
Because doctors, like lawyers and any profession, we're not insurers. We don't insure anything. We just do our best under the circumstances. So they should not worry about that. Perhaps what we can do is upgrade our respective professions, educate our members, make us more professionally responsible, but at the same time also assure everyone that hindi naman lahat ng pagkakamali will result to civil damages or criminal liability. Ito, exceptional case ito. It is unfortunate that Dr. Iggy has died. We know he's also an advocate. But we hope that the Supreme Court can at least look at it. Kasi nga, patay na yung yung akusado. So, and then final ng decision. But it's good, even outside the formal petitions, for those in the justice sector to review things, simplify rules, perhaps clarify, so that we can avoid this. I hope there is no chilling effect on the part of the doctors.
Well, clearly there is a chilling effect, or we wouldn't have this discussion, Atty. Cayosa, di
That's
ba?
why now we're trying to clarify, no, from a legal point of view. Hindi ho naman lahat ng pagkakamali will amount to that. As I said, this is an exceptional case. We have higher, nobler duties. We understand the concern, no? Yung iba siguro galit, no? Kung may nagkamali, kung may nagkulang, mananagot sila individually, but not the whole profession or not the whole public. Kasi mahirap na matakot, or our doctors are frozen by fear of litigation in doing their best and attending to everyone.
I'm assuming that you had the chance to review that records, or at least, glance through it. Are you convinced that everything was, normal? Because someone had told me, pare, ang bilis eh. Ang bilis nagdesisyon ng trial court, or nung, yung first court, and then the RTC. Medyo mabilis.
Well, mabilis nga, di ba dapat ganon? But what is important is, dapat ganon because we really have a very slow justice system. But if you look at the records of the trial court, mabilis naman sila. But even if it is mabilis, the records would show that both parties were able to present the respective witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So hindi naman ito re-railroad, based on the pleadings ang didesisyonan niya. Mm-hmm. And then, the accused, when he was convicted, was also given the chance to appeal to the RTC, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. Ang problema lang, pagdating sa Supreme Court, hindi na binalikan ng Supreme Court yung facts. They just relied on the findings of the trial court because under the rules, as a general rule, the trial of facts are the trial courts, not the Supreme Court.
Okay,
so,
but Attorney Cayosa, that's already strike two, listening to you. First was, strike one was, the 2 years was put down to minimum 1 month to maximum of 1 year. That to me is already a red flag. So it tells me, sandali, medyo harsh yata yung sentensya. Number 2, hindi binalikan ng Supreme Court yung facts. And then actually, number 3 na, because earlier you said that there should be a review to make sure that these things don't get out of hand. What do you think needs to happen? What can you achieve by having a case review of this matter?
Well, normally, malabo na yung case review, but then this is the Supreme Court. So they can actually make exceptions. And in some cases, they've made exceptions. So this, I think, is one instance where they could make an exception and revisit the case. Secondly, and I think equally important, is that if and when they find that there was really a misappreciation of fact, even if Dr. Iggy has died, it will clear his name. Secondly, if an acquittal or reversal is warranted, not under the rules anymore, kasi tapos na, but under exceptional circumstances, it will also allay the fears of the medical profession. Ngayon, kung makita nila na based on all the evidence, documents, and testimony, talagang nagkasala siya, at least everyone is given the benefit of the doubt at revisit. Yung kasing mahirap tanggapin, I understand from the point of view of the accused na o yung convicted na ayaw na nilang i-revisit yung facts kasi meron nga, may nakita ako doon na may mga witnesses, doctor witnesses who said that it cannot be established na yun ang cause.
There were professional witnesses who said that the guilt where the claim is that the physician, Iggy Agbayani, had used unsterilized equipment. I wasn't in the operating room, so I don't know. But if a professional witnesses, that cannot be established. And then someone pa, I also realized, teka, hindi naman trabaho ng doktor yan na mag-sterilize. Trabaho yan ng nurse, ng OR team, etc. They're the ones who do the sterilization, the cleansing, etc. And the auditing of what was used during the procedure. So parang medyo, mukhang may butas yung kaso. What do you say?
Yes, and that's why it would be good to revisit the records because there's sufficient records. Unfortunately, siguro dahil reckless imprudence lang ito at napakaraming mga malalaking kaso sa nakabinbin pa sa Supreme Court, hindi na nila ginustong i-review at binalikan ito. But I suspect also that binasa din kinakailangang binasa ang record. Why is that? Because they reduced the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Diba? Hindi naman bastang i-reduce mo na lang ang sentence, which is a substantive right, no? Na basta-basta na lang naawa ka. It cannot be that. So
yes, of course.
So for them to do that, a very significant reduction, malamang tinignan din nila. But now that all of these details are coming out, we hope that for the sake of all, titignan uli nila, even outside the formal judicial process.
Assuming that extrajudicial action was taken, or hindi naman, baka mali yung term ko, no?
Judicial pa rin, but not under the strict criminal procedure.
Okay, if a review was undertaken, what do you hope can be achieved? Because some people are now making a case of all of this, and many doctors are worried about legal repercussions. So ano ang pwedeng magawa ng Supreme Court moving forward?
Well, possibly they can look at the details of the testimonies, no, and the records. If indeed there was testimony on the part of even the prosecution witnesses that they could not establish the connection, because it's not enough that there is fault or negligence. You should make a connection that fault or negligence, or in this particular case, the negligence amounted to reckless or criminal negligence, which is a different kind of negligence, and that negligence resulted to the injury or to the damage. With absent that clear connection, the infection could have been caused by so many other factors. And under criminal law, and this is the most difficult part of it, under criminal law, Cito, the rules and the revised penal code, the proof or the quantum of evidence should be proof beyond reasonable doubt. So if there's any doubt, if there's any other theory that the infection could have been caused by some other thing, or that there was no reckless imprudence or criminal negligence, the duty of the judge, regardless of his sentiments and the parties, is to acquit.
So, kasi parang, hello, doktor nga ako kanya nga nandito tayo, ako yung nagdo-doktor Gugustuhin ko bang ma-infection yan? Gugustuhin ko bang magka-problema yan? So, anyway, let's go for a quick break, Attorney Cayosa, and when we return, I'd like you to continue this discussion here on Agenda. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back to your program agenda. And it is mornings like this when I learn so much from our resource person, and then when I take home that knowledge, people think I'm a lawyer. Okay, I am not a lawyer. I just like to learn about the law. With us, former President, Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa. Attorney, we're back on air.
Morning again, Cito. Good morning to everyone.
Okay, now we were talking about what needs to change, how to protect physicians in the future from nuisance suit, false claims, etc. Yung pinag-uusapan nating ano ba yun? Reckless imprudence, yung bang you have to prove criminal negligence, etc. Can you continue the discussion, please?
Yeah, that's why I was saying if they will revisit the evidence and the facts, they might. It is possible. I'm not saying it will, because what we are discussing and what is known to the public, kasi Cito, are those favorable testimonies. We don't know other witnesses, and that's why we have to leave it to the courts to look at all the testimonies and documents. Now, it is possible, theoretically possible, that they will see that there was negligence, but it is not criminal negligence. Therefore, you don't get criminally liable, you don't get an imprisonment fund, but they can award civil damages. Kasi kung ma-establish nila yung connection between the negligence and the injury, then you are entitled to civil damages. But if the negligence, yung pagpabaya, does not amount to criminal negligence or reckless negligence, then walang criminal liability. That's
okay. But when you look at the background of Iggy Agbayani, he's a health advocate. He's helping people, etc. I mean, I don't think Attorney Saul Hofilena would not have gone to him if he did not believe in the reputation and capability of Dr. Agbayani. Now, does the court even take that to matter na, teka, sige, pagbayarin natin si Iggy, pero wag mo nang ikulong. Kasi, people were telling me, wala bang recognizance, first offender, service to the community? Parang, bakit kulong agad?
Pwede, no? Pwede tignan nila yan. But then, you also have to understand that the judges are governed by the laws passed by Congress. So kung ang revised penal code, kung sinabi for reckless imprudence, yun ang minimum, walang magagawa yung quest. They cannot give, unless they appreciate or they see mitigating circumstances. So we don't know what happened after the injury, nung nag-complain ba yung abogado, inasikaso ba ni Dr. Iggy? We don't know that, no? It's not on the records either. But this, you're correct. This should all be taken into consideration. But if these are not brought before the attention of the hearing trial judge, he cannot appreciate them. So it's also a very heavy duty, responsibility on the part of the lawyers to do everything that they can and bring forth to the court and to the judge all the facts that they think and believe would be relevant in making a decision. Kasi we also have to educate our countrymen, the doctors and the lawyers, that judges will only decide based on what is presented before them. They have no duty and they cannot go beyond what is presented to them formally as evidence.
Okay, so you mean to tell me, but that's what I'm saying. All of those does not matter, because parang when does the law decide you go to jail? You do not get immunity. You don't have recognizance, whatever. Parang kasi if a criminal, if someone shot or someone drove like a maniac on Cannon Road, yun, reckless imprudence na yun, resulting in injury or death. But here's a doctor trying to cure a medical condition, and he ends up in jail and, being sentenced. Parang, I guess that's the bottom line. That's the thing that people can't understand, Attorney Cayosa.
Yes, I think what would be more acceptable to everyone could perhaps be civil damages. Kasi
Yeah.
mahirap talagang maniwala na reckless yung doktor. Especially if you also look at the track record of Dr. Iggy, mukhang ngayon lang naman nangyari ito, di ba? Parang by fluke of circumstances. So, hindi naman siguro siya lasing noon, hindi naman siya yung nagpabaya, and you're correct. They did the operation under clinical conditions. So, mayroong mga ibang mga players in the operation in charge of sterilizing these things and taking, making sure these things, because the doctor will get into the operating room, receive the equipment from his assistants, and he can presume na maayos lahat ito because that's what they do.
The presumption of regularity or normalcy.
Yes, we don't know if that was taken up. We don't know if that was raised because what we read only are the published decisions of the trial court and the Supreme Court. But the details we
Okay. Final question ko na lang before we end our conversation, attorney. Okay, under these circumstances where, you're a lawyer, I'm a journalist. I cannot presume to know about medical procedure, medical processes, etc. Is there a requirement or a policy set by the Supreme Court now when you are hearing trials like this, the court must call an independent friend of the court for counsel? I mean, we keep hearing about this in Congress and the Senate, where the Congress invites a friend of the Congress to substantiate or explain points of law. Well, in the trial court, meron bang ganong requirement? Because hindi ka naman doktor, huwag kang mag-doktor at tumawag ka ng doktor na explain sa'yo.
There's no requirement. There's no such rule. But any judge has the discretion, if he thinks that he would need competent professional or expert advice, can actually do so. But normally, they would have to rely on the experts or consultants or witnesses presented by either side. So binabalanse na lang nila, tignan nila kung sinong mas kapani-paniwala. But you're correct. It could be a good suggestion that if you're handling like technical, like this is a medical malpractice suit, it would be a good idea for judges who are not well-trained on these things, not to second guess, but to get competent commissioners. We call that commissioners kuminsan, o kaya friends of the court. That is a possibility. And it would be also good if mayroong a particular rule on that matter.
Okay, so maybe as former president of the IBP, Attorney Cayosa, you would do us the favor. I mean, I don't think it would hurt to make the suggestion because, there are judges who don't know anything about engineering, structural strength. They don't know anything about medicine. And if we really want to serve justice with excellence, it has to be based on that, the professional opinion of independent sources. Okay, Attorney Egon, thank you very much again. Dami natin na pag-usapan.
Thank you, Cito, and good morning to everyone.
Okay, God bless you, Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa, and have a great week. Okay, now we will go to our next interview. Let's watch this video.
Dr. Maricar Limpin is the former president of the Philippine College of Physicians. She also heads the steering committee at the Philippine Coalition on the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases. Limpin also currently serves as the executive director of the non-profit Action on Smoking and Health.
Good morning, Dr. Limpin. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Cito, and good morning to everyone.
Okay, my first question, kakaba ka ba?
Doon sa kaso ni Dr. Iggy, well, kung titignan mo kasi yung decision about the case, it was based on technicalities. So actually wala kasing kung anuhin natin, parang wala talagang doctrinal value yung kaso because the decision was made based on technicality and not based on the merit or substance of the case. That is kung ako yung titingin,
Mhm.
But of course, on the side of the medical practice, I think baka may mga naging problema, particularly maybe in communicating to the patient about the procedure, about the risk involved, para sa ganon, if ever like katulad nito, this is something, kasi for us, doctors, parang ang iniisip namin, very common ang infection after a procedure. So it does not necessarily mean na we did it in an unsterile environment,
Mhm.
Definitely, I think nasa operating room and even hindi sa operating room, like let us say nasa clinic lang, kasi sometimes pero I think this one is in the operating room, so everything has to be done under sterile procedure. It's a routine, actually routine, it's a routinary procedure na ginagawa na hindi na kahit sa ganitong pagkakataon, we can still encounter infection after na mangyari yung procedure.
Okay, now am I correct in what I stated? I believe I was that the sterilization of equipment is not the job of the physician. In fact, most surgeons don't even second guess because there is a presumption of normalcy and regularity that there is a designated team in the OR to cleanse and sterilize equipment.
Yes, you're right. Cito, in fact, meron niyang standard operating procedure in the operating room. And I'm actually thinking na ang sterilization usually ng mga equipments dahil sa dami, regularity ng paggawa ng mga procedure na yan, it is actually being done every day. So every day, nag-sterilize, ang mga operating room, pinapadala yan doon sa kung saan nila ipapa-sterilize yung equipment na yan. And that is within the hospital jurisdiction. Kasi syempre sa OR yan, so it's really the hospital policy, the procedures, standard operating procedures na kailangan ganito every ganitong oras, magpapa-sterilize tayo. So almost every day it is actually being done.
Okay, now you are a health advocate, you represent many groups. Now, what is the sentiment of physicians, especially in public health? Because ang takot yata ngayon ay malpractice because in America, that became such a livelihood for lawyers. Parang pinagkakitahan na kahit na hindi kaso, ginagawang kaso. In fact, now, the Labor Department, our contacts have told me na merong mga seafarers nga that make false claims with ambulance chasing lawyers. So, what is the sentiment of the medical profession?
Yes, unang-una, of course, we grieve over the loss, of a colleague and a very good competent colleague at that. Number two, medyo, actually, yung bugso ng mga damdamin ng mga doktor, medyo na-stimulate, dahil sa nakita nila yung kapwa nila na na nakulong, no? And usually nga, as they say, this is maybe, if I'm not mistaken, the first case na kung saan ang isang doktor ay nakulong. And hindi namin masyadong maintindihan lahat, no, kung bakit nangyari ang mga ito. So that's why we're also looking into ano ba yung mga naging dahilan kung that led, no, into this kind of case. And lahat kami ding mga doktor nag-uusap-usap, I think kailangan tignan natin, yun nga, isa sa mga gusto namin tignan is the way we communicate with our patient. Baka minsan yung doktor nakakalimot, no, na baka hindi niya nasabi lahat ng mga dapat na malaman ng mga pasyente before going into a procedure. So that is something that we need to emphasize, no, to our colleagues para sa ganon makaiwas sa ganitong klaseng mga problema.
Well, that's a very good point to make, Dr. Maricar, because what you said at the beginning of the program, infections normally occur after a surgical procedure because nanghihina yung resistensya or immunity of the patient. And I know that because I have handled several cases in the last month. Sunod-sunod yung mga naoperahang mag-anak kakilala ko that had secondary infections that were, expected, but still surprising. Anyway, Doc Maricar, thank you very much for your time this morning. And we will continue to carry this discussion. And we do hope that it is not something that becomes a livelihood for ambulance chasers, but also not a deterrent for doctors to perform their jobs. Thank you for joining us. God bless you, Dr. Maricar Limpin.
Thank you, and a good day, everyone.
Okay, that's Dr. Maricar Limpin. She is currently mobile, so medyo shaky siya kanina. Anyway, let's go to our closing blessing for this morning. Our declaration from the book of Nehemiah, chapter 8, verse 10. Then he said to them, "Go your way, eat the fat and drink sweet wine, and send portions to anyone who has nothing ready. For this day is holy to our Lord, and do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." Okay, that's it. And thank you very much for joining us today. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. Please do include us in your prayers. God bless all of you, and kindly keep it here on One News.